What's going on, guys? I hope that you're all having a wonderful day today. For those of you that are new to the channel, my name is Ty, and today in this video, I'm going to be ranking every single 2024 movie that I've seen so far since we're about halfway through the year. Technically, this video is like 2 weeks late, but there's just been so much great movie news going on, so much Deadpool and Wolverine posting that I've had to do and this and that I just haven't really gotten to it. But I wanted to just take a second before we get too deep into the year, because as you guys know, the second half of the year always gets crazy with movies, and then, you know, we're worried about, oh, what are the top 10 films of the year? I want to just take a nice little break halfway through the year and breathe and reflect on this first half of the year that, I'm going to be honest with you, in my opinion, has been pretty weak. But I digress. We're going to dive into that in a second. But listen, I just want to say this. If you guys are a fan of movies, man, this week I'm going to be putting out my Twisters review if you guys are interested in that. And next week is going to be the Super Bowl, man. Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of videos. And just to give you guys a quick little tease before we dive into this tier list, which we're going to do in 1 second, I have at least 3 videos coming out Deadpool and Wolverine's opening weekend. That being a Deadpool and Wolverine review, a Deadpool and Wolverine spoiler talk, open rant discussion video, and also every single X-Men movie ranked. So yeah, it's going to be a super fun weekend and even more videos probably. But listen, I don't want to talk about that anymore. Just want to let you guys know, hit that subscribe button if you want to stick around, and let's dive into this tier list. As you guys can see, I have 5 tiers here. I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory, but we've got amazing, which is going to be the best of the best. Movies that just blew me away. Great. Like really above average films. Good is going to be movies that maybe are slightly memorable, but they were just good. They were okay. Then we've got which were movies that are just fine, I guess. And then bad, of course. That's going to be the worst of 2024, basically. And I've seen 19 movies this year so far. Usually the second half, I always see more movies. So hopefully I'll be around like that 50 mark by the end of the year. But let's just dive into things here with A Quiet Place Day 1. Now listen, for those of you that don't know, I am not really a horror fan whatsoever. Like, I'll watch any movie, but I honestly don't really review horror movies on this channel. I don't really know why. I'm just not interested in seeing horror films. But listen, A Quiet Place Day 1 intrigued me because it feels more sci-fi than horror, honestly. And I really like Joseph Quinn. I really like Lupita. So I was like, let's go check this out. I watched the Quiet Place film, the first one, before I watched this because I actually haven't seen it before, and I really loved it. And I've got to say, this was a great sequel, or at least prequel. You guys understand what I'm saying here. This movie was really good. It had a lot of heart to it. Obviously, the monsters were super cool to see in a new location like New York. The dynamic here between Joseph Quinn's character and Lupita Nyong'o's character was just awesome. There was a little cat in here. It was just a really fun movie, and I've got to say, especially since those first 2 movies are kind of just in like the back country, it was really sick to see that first day when nobody knew what was going on and in Manhattan. Like, that's so cool, especially because I'm like near Manhattan where I live, so like seeing that was honestly really awesome. So yeah, Quiet Place Day 1, man, great film. And like I said, I feel like 2024 wasn't the best year for films. We're going to get to that in a minute, but this was definitely a standout for me so far this year. Next up, we've got Argylle. Where do I put Argylle, man? I'm going to be ranking within tiers, by the way, as well. So Argylle's going to go in and I have a feeling it's going to go towards the back of I don't think that it was bad. Like, bad I'm reserving for, like, really, really bad stuff. But this is going to go towards the back of It's teetering. Listen, this movie looks fun, right? It was one of these, like, February releases. And as you guys know, January and February kind of just suck for movies. It's just like that Oscar season. Everyone's still worrying about the year before. No one's really looking at the year that's, taking place, basically, because I feel like movies warm up around March or April. So this is one of those kind of crappy ensemble early year movies. I don't know. Matthew Vaughn directed this, who's a pretty solid director, but even though there was a stacked cast, and I love the people that are in this, especially Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell, who are pretty much like our main characters. You got a little Henry Cavill in there. I think I already said that. Samuel L. Jackson, Bryan Cranston, but the movie just wasn't that good. And I feel like the concept here, like, there was an average movie in here somewhere, at least, like an enjoyable film. This was, okay. It was an alright watch. I think it got a little bit better as it went on, but it was super long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes when it could have been like an hour and 40 minutes maybe, and yeah, I don't know, just was not feeling this one that much. Next up, speaking of movies that I wasn't feeling, and just hold on, we've got Challengers. Challengers I saw super late because it came out right when I was taking my college finals, so I saw it like a month late, and I didn't put a review on the channel. Really liked it. I really liked it. I saw it with my friends from New Orleans. Shout out to them. And I've got to say this. I was a little bit mixed on it. I was like, wow, I really liked it, but some things threw me off. But the more that I think about it, the more that I like this film. It just keeps growing and growing and growing on me. And I've got to say, it's an absolutely great movie. First of all, this movie feels like The Social Network. It has like that dramatic element to it. It has that quick pace, and also it has the same music. Well, it has music from the same people that did the music from The Social Network. It's quick, it's choppy, it's got that drama, it's got this tension. Every character in here is like a bad person, which also reminds me of The Social Network in a way. Not completely, but you guys get the gist. It's phenomenal. It's shot beautifully. The three leads are just great. I gotta rewatch this film soon. This is one film, again, like I already said, I'm just itching to rewatch. Some of these I could go without watching the rest of my life, but this one I'm definitely itching to rewatch. But I think it's gonna go right behind A Quiet Place Day 1. I might switch these around in a minute, but yeah, for now, Challenger's gonna sit here. Just a super cool movie that I could see myself bumping up maybe to even like amazing, maybe in a couple years down the line, but I think it's going to grow on me very well. Next up, we've got what I would consider the magnum opus of the 2020s, Dune Part 2. Amazing movie. In my opinion, this is the best film of the 2020s, of this decade. And I'm not saying from now until 2014, I'm saying from 2020 and on. It's the best film of the decade. It's not my favorite film of the decade. I differentiate favorite and best, but it is so well made. I've only seen it once so far. I need to rewatch it. I actually just got it on 4K, so I'm really looking forward to checking it out again on that 4K disc. But oh my god, what hasn't been said about this movie already? The score, the visuals, the storytelling, the acting, the ensemble cast, the thematic elements in here, all the stuff about the journey and the prophecy. I have just fallen in love with this Dune franchise the past couple of months, even more, and there's nothing else I could even say. It's a phenomenal movie. It's one of the best you'll ever watch in your life. I'm being serious. I get it. It's only been a couple of months, but as the years go by, once we're in 2034 and it's been 10 years, people are going to look back and say, wow, Dune 2 is really a classic sci-fi film, and it's phenomenal. It's one of the greatest ever. I'll stand on that. I don't care. Amazing. I cannot wait to rewatch it. But also, it's like a 3-hour film, so that's why I haven't rewatched it yet. I just have to like kind of find that time because I have so much to watch. So next up's going to be The Fall Guy. I absolutely love Ryan Gosling. Emily Blunt's been growing on me. Like, I never disliked her, but I've been watching a lot of her stuff recently for some reason, and I'm, like, really falling in love with her work. I mean, she is great. This was a really good movie. This movie bombed at the box office. Like, heavily bombed. By the way, kind of random, I'm actually going to be switching these two. I don't know why. I just saw the picture. I think that this is the better film. But it bombed pretty bad. For some reason, they put it on digital so early. But regardless, it's a super fun time at the movies. I get it. This isn't a great or amazing movie. I'm not going to put it up super high. But I wish that they still made more movies like this. Put your big leads in front. You've got Aaron Taylor-Johnson here as well. But at the end of the day, this just reminds me of like the 90s. Kind of like those action, romance, comedies that they used to make. And I would love to see more films like this. Ryan Gosling, I like how he's just doing like this almost like ironic kind of phase that he's in right now, where like between Ken and now like this where he's like singing Taylor Swift. It's just funny. I just love Ryan Gosling. So yeah, it's gonna go towards the top of good. I know that doesn't look that great, but listen, I would definitely rewatch this movie. I think it was really great. I just need to check it out a second time to kind of solidify my thoughts. Next up is gonna be Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. This is a tough one for me because don't get me wrong, this is really not that great of a movie, but I honestly kind of enjoyed it. And don't get me wrong, as the year goes on, I know it's just going to keep dropping throughout my list, but for right now, I think it's going to go towards the very back of good. Actually, I'll put it at the top of Definitely better than Argyle. Both of these are like ensemble casts. I don't know why there are so many characters in here, which I'll get to in a second. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, right? Completely fine movie. I'm not really the biggest Ghostbusters fan. It's not really like this is a horror movie, but I'm not really a horror fan, like a scary movie fan. But yeah, I enjoy Phil Wolfhard. Also, the girl that plays Phoebe, whose name, maybe Grace something, McKenna Grace, I believe is her name. She was great in here too. For some reason, though, they tried to squish 75 characters in this movie. It's literally like Avengers Endgame. It's unbelievable. If you guys watch it, you'll see what I mean. And on top of that, I wish that they leaned into the Frozen Empire thing a little bit heavily, like a little more heavy, because the trailers teased that like New York was going to freeze over, but spoilers, that kind of only happens at like the end of the movie, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. But yeah, I feel like it drags a bit. But honestly, I feel like people were a little bit too harsh with it. You know what? I'm going to go towards the back of good, because I definitely have some movies I'm going to put in I'm going to go towards the back of good. I thought it was a pretty decent film. Next up, we got Furiosa. Woo! Furiosa is a great movie. I'm going to put it at the top of great. I'm honestly not that big of a fan of Mad Max Fury Road, and I know this is a hot take. I liked Furiosa better than Mad Max Fury Road. I just feel like it actually gave context to Fury Road, and I loved seeing Furiosa in her origin state. This movie just feels like an epic. The color palette is phenomenal. Chris Hemsworth in here is like basically the best villain of the year. Yeah, you have like Fade from Dune Part 2 and stuff, but I absolutely loved Chris Hemsworth in this. In my opinion, best villain of the year. The ending of this film is just so good. It's so clean, and the way that it leads into Fury Road, again, building that context, building the lore of this land, it was so good. Unfortunately, just like Fall Guy, this movie bombed so hard, but it doesn't really matter because we have it. And again, I'm not really a big Mad Max fan, especially because I don't really like Fury Road that much. I know I keep saying that. But yeah, Furiosa, great movie. Maybe I'll switch some of these around, but yeah, either way, right now, it's going to be the top of great. Next up is going to be Godzilla and Kong. This is going to go towards the top of eh. I mean, you know, it's fun, it's stupid, it's dumb. For some reason, I feel like I'm a bigger fan of the MonsterVerse as a whole than any of the individual MonsterVerse movies. Like, does that even make sense? I love this universe, or I don't love it. I mean, I'm kind of going crazy here. I like this universe that they've built, but when I look at the individual movies, I'm like, yeah, they're like okay, but I just appreciate that at least they're kind of going for it with these films. You know, I like the color palette in here. I loved like how they went for this pink kind of purple theme. But when you look at Godzilla 2014 from Gareth Edwards, who I feel like really set the tone for this universe, I feel like we're at such a departure at this point, and I get it. That's what people want to see. They want to see stupid stuff like Kong putting on a metal infinity gauntlet and getting his tooth knocked out or whatever, Scar King, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it just feels like this universe has gotten kind of wacky, and like, I get it. It's more for like the general audiences, but kind of wish they kept that serious tone. I really like Kong's Skull Island, which almost was going on that goofy path a little bit, more fun path, but it still felt kind of like down to earth and grounded slightly. Now we're just getting in crazy world. I mean, this is like ridiculous, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts. It's an okay movie. Next up, we've got Hitman. This honestly kind of hurts me to say. I think that Hitman is going to be going in eh. I know, to some of you that might sound crazy because people were raving all over like Twitter and Letterboxd and this and that. By the way, follow me on Letterboxd if you're not already. My list for my 2024 movies is definitely not going to be in the same order as this. Like, I'm sure that I have a couple things mixed around, but of course, I'm just trying to do this like live, so, you know, whatever. But if you guys follow me, I will follow back, especially if you comment on one of my reviews, just saying, hey, I came from YouTube, what's up? I'll follow you back for sure, and I actually do look at what other people watch, so you might catch a like on your review from me. But, yeah, man, Hitman, I felt like this was Glenn Powell carrying this movie on his back. He was doing all of the work in this movie. If he was not in this film, and also I'm blanking on her name, but this girl was also great too, like his co-lead, but if Glenn Powell was not in this movie, good God, it would have been bad. It was funny seeing him dress up as different characters, but I just feel like the plot was just all over the place. There was a good scene or two, like the text reading scene. Really enjoyed that. Maybe I need to rewatch it to get like better thoughts on it, but I'm going to be honest with you. I was going into this with a very positive, you know, feeling, and I just left very empty. And honestly, a couple days after I watched it, I almost like forgot about it, and I was like, oh damn, that's actually kind of sad. Glenn Powell, though, I'm really starting to love, especially after Anyone But You, which for some reason I really enjoyed, but I watched only like maybe a month or two ago. But yeah, this movie just didn't really live up to my expectations. Speaking of expectations, Inside Out 2 definitely shattered my expectations because, oh my god, I thought this was going to be like another cheap copy of like, you know, a Pixar franchise or whatever, but it ended up being an absolutely great film. I think it's better than A Quiet Place Day One. I think I'm going to put it right there, right in between Challengers and A Quiet Place Day One. I've got to say, this film just builds on top of that first movie, and I feel like it actually made sense just in, like, you know, not even talking about the movie, but it just made sense to make this sequel. Let's watch Riley grow up, even though it's just a couple of years into that teenage state where you get anxiety. You start to, you know, turn into a young adult. I'm not saying an adult, but you relate to adults more. You close that gap. Anxiety is something that everyone deals with, from young adults, like we see in this movie, to people that are in their 70s or 80s. Everyone can relate to this film. Anxiety was such a main focus in this movie, and, you know, I was watching this like, oh my god, you know, I can relate to this when you feel stressed, or when anxiety can kind of help you sometimes. It was just great. I thought there were really funny moments, like all the pouchy stuff. I've had some of my biggest laughs in the theater this year, actually in Inside Out 2, which I didn't really expect. But yeah, this was just such a great Pixar film. It felt like a return to form. It made so much money. And I've got to say, I don't want to say, oh, Pixar's back, but this was a much needed win, because especially all this talk about how, oh my god, all Pixar does is make sequels and all Disney makes is sequels. They made a good sequel, and I think that was much needed. This was a really good film. Next up is going to be Kung Fu Panda 4. I'm going to be honest with you, I think I liked this movie a lot more than other people did. I'm going to put this in good, right in front of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I'm a really big Kung Fu Panda fan of I'm a fan of the franchise, I should say, especially because my girlfriend really likes this franchise, and she kind of like put me on. Don't get me wrong, yeah, do I have bias? I guess, but at the end of the day, bias is just an opinion. So yeah, I don't think it's the best Kung Fu Panda movie. I think it's better than the third one. I think the first two are still definitely way better. But I definitely think this was a solid entry into the franchise. I think it was fun. It was a natural progression of the story. I liked the little Awkwafina Fox sidekick. It was funny. It wasn't anything over the moon crazy. I'm not going to act like it was insane, but I feel like a lot of people were dogging on it for no reason. I didn't love that they were kind of doing like this like No Way Home, kind of bringing everybody back. It felt a bit cheap. But either way, I actually kind of enjoyed the story here. I thought it was just a good movie. Again, not as good as The Fall Guy. Definitely better than Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, which had like Avatar airbending in it for some reason. But yeah, moving on to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Oh, guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was my second most anticipated movie of the year, behind Deadpool and Wolverine. And I'm going to be honest with you, it left me disappointed, and I was like gutted. It's a good movie. Okay, it's better than Frozen Empire, but I actually think I even like Kung Fu Panda 4 better than it. I think it's okay. It tried to build on the lore and have all this stuff about legacy and this and that, but I just didn't really care that much about the characters, and it bothers me because the first 20 minutes of this film are so good, but I feel like after that, it just drags, and on top of that, it copies the plot from the previous film, War for the Planet of the Apes. And that just bothered me, and I feel like it was just slow, and I didn't really like the way this plot went. I guess it's trying to lead on to a sequel. Proximus Caesar didn't get enough screen time. The human girl was, like, annoying me, which I guess is sort of the point, but, like, I don't know. I just wasn't really feeling this movie. The visuals were amazing. It was stunning. I loved some of these action sequences. But at the end of the day, storytelling is king, and I just don't think the story was that great in this movie. I just didn't really like it. I don't think they really went over all of this stuff about Caesar's legacy that well. And don't get me wrong, maybe the next movie will be good, but I honestly was left very disappointed with this film, especially because of how much I really enjoy that first trilogy. It's just so great. Wow, we're getting into a stinker here with Lift. Listen, I know you guys are probably thinking, what the hell is Lift? Well, I'll tell you this. It's a bad movie. This is a Netflix movie, and the reason that I watched this is because it was like the first couple of days in 2024. It was like, let's just say January 15th, and I was like, I just want to log a 2024 movie, just like on my Letterboxd. So I was like, oh my god, this new Netflix movie Lift came out. I knew it was going to be bad, don't get me wrong. It's a Kevin Hart-led film. It has some other like side characters in here. I think Vincent D'Onofrio's in here for some reason, and it's a movie about heists and NFTs, stealing NFTs. Clearly, this movie started production like 2 years ago, because by the time it released early this year, NFTs are already dead. It's a joke of a film. It's not funny. It's one of these movies where I was practically like on my phone half the time, which I always hate doing, but it was just so stupid. Like, it's just a horrible movie. It's a Netflix algorithm movie. It has no artistic merit to it. It's garbage. And again, just kind of wanted to fill in, you know, the ranking towards the beginning of this year. So yeah, we've got a bad movie on deck. On the opposite end of that, we've got Monkey Man, and oh my god, Monkey Man is such a great movie. I'm going to be honest with you, I think that Doom Part 2 is the only amazing movie so far this year. I think I like Furiosa better than Monkey Man. I'm going to put it right here. Actually, I think I'm going to put Monkey Man right here behind... Nope. Sorry. Monkey Man's going to go right there, squished in between these two. Oh, it's like a threesome, like, wasn't that? Okay, pause. Challenger's reference. Monkey Man's phenomenal. It feels so disgusting in the best way possible. Every punch is just bloody. It's gory. It feels dirty. And I absolutely loved it. Dev Patel got his shot here, and I think he absolutely killed it with this one. There's so much heart and emotion. I loved this just classic revenge tale. God, it was so satisfying by the time you get to the end. Just such a great film. I mean, it just felt like one of these early movies in the beginning of the year that a lot of people are going to forget about, unfortunately. But Jordan Peele's like Monkey Paw Productions picked it up, threw it in theaters because it was going to be a Netflix film, but it got sent to theaters like I already said. And man, I'm so happy that it did. This is definitely one of the best films of the year so far. It's probably going to be in my top 10 at least. You know, I had to change around a couple of these. Like I think on my Letterboxd, like I said, my rankings are probably different. But either way, this is a really great movie. And by the way, kind of random, I'm going to be moving Frozen Empire right here. Okay, just a random thought as I'm looking around. Next up is going to be Ricky Stenicki. Listen, is Ricky Stenicki the best movie I've ever seen? No. It feels like one of these comedies where it's trying to be like one of those, we can't make comedies like this anymore, like Superbad, The Interview, you know, Step Brothers. It's trying to go for that with Zac Efron and John Cena. And I thought it was funny enough. I'm going to put it in the back of good. And don't get me wrong, by the time it's the end of the year, this is probably going to be down an eh. It's going to go at the very back of good. I thought it was funny enough. The story isn't anything crazy. It gets super wacky. They got like Bobby Santino in here, like the comedian who I really like as well. It's nothing to, you know, write home about. But it was just funny. And again, I thought there were some gags that were just set up so well that I was like laughing my ass off. And again, it's not the funniest movie I've ever seen. It's okay. It's going to go towards the back of good though. Next up is going to be Spaceman. This is the Adam Sandler Netflix movie. I want to make something clear. At the beginning of this year, I made a video titled something along the lines of my predictions for 2024. And it was just me rattling off different predictions about what movies I think are going to be good, what movies are going to disappoint. I said that I think Spaceman is going to be a top 10 film of the year for me. I'm going to give you guys a hint. This movie is so bad. Like, horrible. And I get it. It's a Netflix film. Maybe I could have expected it. But it looked good. It was like this psychological type of thriller. You know, what's the meaning of life type of movie. With Adam Sandler in a serious role. A lot of people dog on Adam Sandler, but I really love him. And, you know, Punch Drunk Love or Uncut Gems, of course, like arguably his greatest dramatic role. But wow, this movie was so bad. It was so, like, boring, honestly. Like, I hate using that, right? I never want to call a movie boring because I feel like that isn't a valid criticism. This movie was boring. And it just dragged. And I just could not wait for it to be over by the time I was at like the halfway point. Because it started off kind of interesting. And then it was just like nothing happened. Michelle Williams is in here. Absolutely wasted. And God, like I was saying, it's just boring. And I was really excited for this movie. I went into it like excited. I didn't even have like any bias towards it. And God, it wasn't boring. It was super bad. Speaking of super bad, The Idea of You. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, this movie was definitely better than Spaceman because it was, like, entertaining. It was funny. Anne Hathaway's funny. Also, this guy whose name I'm forgetting, like, Nicholas something. There was an idea of a good movie somewhere in here. Like, I could see the structure for a decent film in here. But at the end of the day, it just ended up being pretty bad. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, it felt like fan fiction. Like, oh, this pop star's falling for this random, like, 40-year-old mom. When's that gonna happen, man? This is like some Tumblr fan fiction, some Reddit 4chan fan fiction from like some random 16-year-old girl. And again, like I'm not trying to be mean or sound like an incel, but I really do mean it. Like, this movie just sucks. Like, it's just so stupid. Like, I could rewatch it and like maybe get a laugh out of it. There was actually a scene or two that I thought was like pretty decent. But overall, at the end of the day, it's gonna go at the top of bad, don't get me wrong, but it's a bad film. Not good. It's, you know, whatever. Next up, we've got Unfrosted. Wow, we're starting off pretty rough here. Guys, all I've got to say is this. Unfrosted is lucky. Unfrosted should be on their knees, so happy, begging and praying that Madam Web came out in the same year. The reason I say that is because Unfrosted would have been the worst movie of the year, but Madam Web takes that spot, and I'll just finish it off. Starting with Unfrosted, this movie is legitimately the definition of, like, corporate slop. Like, there was an algorithm, and I know that people use this so much and it's just corny at this point, but this movie actually feels written by artificial intelligence. There is no way that Jerry Seinfeld, the guy who made Seinfeld, and I get it, it was also Larry, but I'm just saying, there's no way that the guy that did Seinfeld wrote the comedy and the story for this movie. It felt like they just threw every name actor that they could in here for 5 seconds, whether it's James Marsden or like Beck from Saturday Night Live or Melissa McCarthy, to just show their face, or John Hamm, and just kind of be there and pretend to act and get a paycheck and leave. This movie sucks. It is so bad. it's honestly like, it pisses me off, I'm gonna be honest, because it literally feels like just content. It doesn't even feel like a movie. It feels like, oh, the Netflix boss, you know, wanted to put a movie on Netflix, so we had to hit our quota. But moving on from there, we've got Madame Web. Listen, it's been joked about a billion times. I'm not going to act like when I watched this movie, I didn't have a good time, because I was laughing my ass off. It was honestly a fun theater experience. But at the end of the day, I feel like some people do overlook, like, how embarrassing this movie really is for Sony. Like, I get it. Like, everyone's joking around about it, and everyone's like, oh my god, it's so bad. But this is really embarrassing. And again, like I said, everyone really overlooked that. It's so poorly made. Like, at least Unfrosted kind of looks like a movie, even though it's also a poorly made film from a technical standpoint. But Madame Web literally feels like Sony gave $100 million to a college freshman at art school and was like, hey, you have 2 months to make a movie. Not even like a year or 2 years. And they were like, go. And also, you know, they like wasted the like stacked cast, I guess. But like, they weren't even really given that much material in the first place. I don't even want to talk about Madame Web anymore because it's so garbage. And this universe, the Sony universe, just kind of sucks. But yeah, guys, that's going to just about do it for my tier list. As you guys can see, I've only got one movie in Amazing. And from there, it kind of just trickles down. I don't know, man. This year hasn't been too good so far, but next week, or this week, Twisters comes out. Next week, Deadpool and Wolverine comes out. And there's a lot of movies that I'm starting to get a little bit of hype for the back half of 2024. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to move some things up on this list. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.